Hi, my name is ZaKaiRan and welcome to my video podcast and ebook. You are becoming a universal human. ET's among us. The truth is in here. Or why are the ETs so interested in us humans? What's going on down here on planet Earth? Imagine, if you will, that we are not the only sentient species in the universe. And in fact, that there are countless, way more advanced extraterrestrial species across the galaxies and universes and super universes. And these ETs have been visiting our planet and watching humanity's evolvement for hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of years. And imagine that there are many types of extraterrestrial bodies and many types of ET species. Some humanoid in nature, but countless others that are not. Some that look like us, but many others that look truly extraterrestrial, like some of the characters on Star Wars. You've seen a few of these species in Star Trek and the X-Files and the countless ET and space movies that we've seen throughout the decades. And some of these are actually fairly accurate depictions of real ET races, especially some of the modern television shows. And especially the Greys from Zeta Reticuli, while other characters are purely fictional. But regardless, as many different ET beings that we can dream up in our imagination, there are thousands upon thousands more out there. And some of them are watching us on galactic TV, so to speak. Some are very interested in us, especially the more advanced, spiritually advanced ones, while others are not particularly interested in us. Most are good, so to speak, while others are quote-unquote bad, so to speak, just like in Star Trek and Star Wars. And there are many species of ETs that have been directly involving themselves in our planetary affairs for literally hundreds of thousands of years, including our own human species. Some of these species claim to be our creators, such as the Anunnaki from the planet Nibiru, aka Planet X, which has an elliptical orbit and rotates within range of our planet every 30,000 years or so. Don't quote me on that number. And if you read the countless other channeled books about ETs from the many authors, such as Barbara Marciniak, Barbara Hand-Clough, Zecharia Sitchin, Sheldon Neidl, other ET races claim responsibility for the creation of the human race, or at least have been tweaking with our DNA to evolve us. And if I recall correctly, I believe it was Drunvalo Melchizedek who said that every human species on this planet came from other star systems and came here either of their own accord via ships or were brought here by extraterrestrial species. The races who have been here the longest are the darker races. Then the Asians, then finally the newbies in the galaxy, the whiteys, the white races. And Mafu, a channeled spirit who I studied with many, many years ago, claimed that the Hebrew race came to Earth via Mars, and then when Mars was actually inhabited and had obviously had an atmosphere, and then came to planet Earth after that, and that's quite a story that I won't get into now. And then there are ET-type species that have lived on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years from the ancient times of Atlantis and Lemuria, some of which live in the subterranean cities of the Agartha network, which are all around the planet. And these beings are extremely advanced and have their own spaceships. and are part of the Galactic Federation of Light, which is the real equivalent of the United Federation of Planets that our Trekkers know well, that Gene Roddenberry put into the Star Trek series. The Galactic Federation is a benevolent federation of over 800 star nations, all working together for the evolution of the universe and even assisting our planet and our evolution and growth. And when we have evolved enough to stop fighting like ignorant children over stupid things, we will become part of the Galactic Federation. Now, just a bit of history. Imagine that there have been and are ET species that are millions of years old and who have been gallivanting around the stars in their very advanced spaceships for millennia, and who have been watching and guiding and sometimes interfering with the general evolvement of this planet and our human species. If you really look at ancient civilization, this is pretty obvious by the many indigenous stories passed down through the generations of visitations by space beings such as the Dogon tribe of Africa, and the many petroglyphs and pictographs made by those indigenous people, as well as much larger structures that are obviously ET, space, galactic oriented, such as the Nazca lines and the various characters of Peru. There are even similar ones in England. And, of course, the pyramids that are not just in Egypt and not even just in South America, but actually are all over the world. And if you do some research, you'll see that they are all over, including, well, they used to be in Australia. So it's just plainly ludicrous to try and dismiss the fact that there are and always have been extraterrestrial involvement with this planet. Basically, they have been watching us forever. And in more recent years, especially with the onset of the world wars and the invention of the nuclear bomb, the ETs understandably stepped up their interest in us, and even involvement in our culture in sort of sneaky ways, and some with their own agendas, because they needed something from us, especially the Greys, which I'll get into later, and of course this planet. While most of the benevolent ETs of the Galactic Federation, such as the Pleiadians, Arcturians, etc., just watched, but did prepare for the shutdown of our nuclear weapons silos if we got too crazy and decided to obliterate each other. They were prepared to interfere and stop that. There is a government documented experience where a ship actually hovered over weapon silos in Minot, North Dakota, and actually turned off all of the weapon silos, just to show them that, hey, we're not going to let you guys destroy each other. Now, there was a rogue group of Pleiadians, so going back to World War II, there was a rogue group of Pleiadians bizarrely supporting the Germans in the creation of rockets and even spaceship technologies. And the Greys from Zeta Reticuli were supporting the U.S. government with secret technologies, specifically stealth and cloaking technology using external Merkabah technology, which is an energy field. And Nikola Tesla, which you may or may not be aware of, is perhaps one of the most evolved scientists, amazing scientists to ever to grace this planet Earth, who is basically invented the technology for my Tesla pendant, which I am wearing and selling. Anyway, Nikola Tesla was involved in that experiment called the Philadelphia Project, which was allegedly to make an entire ship be invisible to the enemy. But the Greys had their own agenda, which was they were trying to mess with time and space for the survival of their own species. And that ship didn't actually disappear, it actually went through time. You can investigate that on the internet, I'm sure. They even made a movie about it called Philadelphia Project. And there's a being by the name of Al Bielek who was especially involved in that, and you can read or watch videos all about him. That experiment was related to a previous external Merkabah experiment conducted during Atlantean times, again by the Greys, and that experiment again was an external Merkabah experiment which knocked a hole in the space-time continuum, and that also created the Bermuda Triangle, which is why ships and planes used to disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. And of course, that created a vortex. You can even read about that on the book Abduction to the Ninth Planet, where they actually take this being to that planet where these ships and planes actually end up. That vortex has since been healed, so to speak, by the benevolent ETs of the Galactic Federation. So, the ETs have always been busy on this planet, some good, some bad, especially the classic good guys, such as the good Pleiadians, not the rogue ones, who have been visiting Billy Meyer in Switzerland for decades, allowing him to photograph their ships. And the classic unemotional mental heads, the Greys from Zeta Reticuli, who especially during the 80s and 90s, were conducting sexually oriented experiments on us humans with the express purpose, and cows even. Yes, that's right. You could find reports where the genitals of cows were cut out because they were doing basically genetic experiments, genitalic experiments, with the express purpose of creating a new hybrid race called the Essassani, which are part gray and part human. And the U.S. secret government has been was allowing this experimentation without interference in exchange for technology, including stealth and their own spacecraft technologies, of which some of the spaceships that people see are actually U.S. secret government spaceships, but not all of them, obviously. Most of the ships that people see are benevolent ETs that are part of the Galactic Federation, such as the Pleiadians, Sirians, Andromedans, Arcturians, etc., as well as different ETs that are part of the Ashtar Command, which is another sub-federation, so to speak, of very highly evolved, advanced extraterrestrials that are naturally a part of the Galactic Federation. You can see pictures of Lord Ashtar on my website at ZaKaiRan.com in the Divine Light Images group. Amazing pictures painted by Peter Fitch Christensen in Denmark. And of course, you can see all kinds of pictures of Lord Ashtar, our sort of, admiral, as it were, on the internet, and read all about it. And you can watch and listen and read all about the Greys and the Essassani, the hybrid race created from part human genetics and Grey genetics from the channel Bashar. And you can read and watch all about the different ET races in the Galactic Federation and their purposes and their ships, as well as their propulsion technology, as well as their intentions and way of life from Sheldon Neidl. who actually visits these ships and reports back, so to speak, about the Galactic Federation. You can find his info at paoweb.com, if I'm correct, which stands for Planetary Activation Organization, or just do a search for Sheldon Neidl. Now, the Greys are no longer abducting people, as far as I know, because they've become good, so to speak, and using their DNA for their our DNA for their experiments, because those experiments are now pretty much done with. Most abductees are still not aware. They've been literally, probably, I don't know, maybe, anyway, tens of thousands at least, as a pure estimate off the top of my head, of abductees from all around the planet that were abducted by the Greys for these experiments. Most of these people are not aware that they were abducted, contrary to a lot of people that you can actually see on the various UFO documentaries of people that amazingly saw and remember everything. And some people, they get their memories back later because their memories were typically wiped by the Greys, so they wouldn't remember it. While a lot of times other people later remember bits and pieces, and there have been lots of experiments and interviews and so forth. Again, they're part of the UFO docos, and specifically people have been put into hypnotic states to remember those experiences. And others still remember every experience, and a lot of them are coming forth now. A lot of them just couldn't talk about it because people would just make fun of them and ridicule them. Me personally, I was abducted at the age of around 7 years old, but at the time I did not have any memories or awarenesses, conscious awarenesses of these experiences. But much later in my life, during a channeling session in my late 20s with Kuala Sriyama, the spirits remarked about that experience, which I must have brought up a question about, because I always had a feeling about something that had happened during that time. I always had a vague knowing, but no clear memories. But I very much had clear memories of what a lot of abductees experience, and that's when they were in their bed and they just couldn't move. They were just frozen. You could move your eyes, and that was about it. Now, I've never really talked about that much. It has occurred to me to go under hypnosis and bring it up, but I didn't really see any point in that, especially because I understand and understood that, and we used to talk about it in the groups that I was always involved with various channeled entities like Extraterrestrial Earth Mission and Mafu and so forth. We used to talk about ETs a lot, but not in the sense that we were somehow separate from them, that we were and are those extraterrestrials. And any of us that have been abducted, we used to talk about and realize that because there is no such thing as assertion, we realized that on a soul level, we volunteered for those experiments. Anyway, so that's another exploration entirely. But in regards to that, especially with my sort of ET buddies, so to speak, I always used to joke that, when somebody would ask me, do you have any children? And I'd say, well, no, I don't have any Earth children on Earth, but I probably have some hybrid Essassani kids. And one day I probably am going to answer my door and to greet a hybrid teenager saying, "Hi, Dad." Anyway, and I when I lived in the Coffs Harbour region of Australia, and was early in my journey of teaching and writing and so forth. I counseled an abductee who was a purely conscious abductee, who recalled every single abduction experience that he had. So they must have either never wiped his memory or it never took. But he never told anybody else about it. He was just an average guy, truck driver, just an Aussie bloke. And he only told me because I was, a spiritual teacher and obviously generally aware of this kind of thing. And every abduction that he experienced was quite traumatic for him initially, until he decided to stop fighting the experience and seeing it as a traumatic experience, and then just surrender to the experience. And then the experiences no longer became traumatic. And now I lost track of that guy, but it would be great to run into him again and see how he is now, especially with all those experiences, and if he's ever told anybody else about it. Probably not. And I hope he remembers me and contacts me one day. If you watch this, I don't even remember your name. Hey, get in touch with me. So, for most people, ETs and spaceships are still something very far out and paranormal or even unbelievable. But for me, because I have studied all manner of spiritual and what we refer to as paranormal and dimensional, etc., spirituality, extraterrestrial, sacred geometry, everything, my entire life, and also because of my very high vibrational level and openness from all of the inner work that I have done, so to speak, the alignment that I do every day, all the countless seminars I've attended, all the countless books I've read, all the countless videos I've watched, etc., ETs and UFOs and spaceships and the Galactic Federation and ET history and abductions and visitations and secret government conspiracies and of course crop formations and subterranean cities and then ancient civilizations and of course ET involvement with those ancient civilizations, like Lemuria, Atlantis, etc., are just average everyday stuff for me. Just part of the vastness of creation, and are even normal to me personally because I am aware of my multi-dimensional vastness and the fact that my source, who I truly am as source, is experiencing life through many bodies, human bodies, extraterrestrial bodies, and I am experiencing life as source in those various ET bodies and on spaceships and planets and star systems as part of the vastness of creation, but also as part of the Ashtar Command, which I am very much involved with, doing benevolent work, sort of like the Starship Enterprise and the United Federation of Planets on Star Trek. And I'm aware of that because of the soul work that I have done in the past, using telepathy, whatever you want to call it, using my knowing, my awareness, tuning in to my soul, my spirit, my vastness. And I've tuned in and seen myself on the bridge of extremely advanced spaceships in very cool looking bodies doing very advanced stuff. And I've done lots of soul work, so to speak, and have been aware of what I was doing as part of that Galactic Command, that Ashtar Command, whatever you want to call it, in the spaceships, especially monitoring what the Greys were up to, etc. Even had an experience, a very profound experience, where it was a dream, but it was also real. where the Greys were trying to kill me. They were chopping me up, chopping my body up, and trying to kill me and trying to drown me. And no matter what they did, they couldn't kill me because of my immortality. Now, whether that experience was real, whether it was dimensional, whether it was just allegorical, it was certainly a very profound experience for me in my awareness of my immortality. Again, that's another story for another time. Anyway, in regards to the Ashtar command, my last name, Shihan, is an Ashtar command soul family name. And people with that soul family name are part of the Ashtar command. And of course, people that are down here on the planet who are typically walk-ins, that's another exploration, who are aware and have that last name, or were given that last name by a channeler, or however they arrived at it, are part of the Ashtar command, which is a group of beings often of Pleiadian descent, which means they are from the star system of the Pleiades and the seven sisters of the Pleiades, but of course include other star nations that serve upon the Ashtar ships as part of the Galactic Federation. So, even though this planet is not yet an official member of the Galactic Federation, I certainly am. I'm still waiting for my official membership card and my Ashtar Command badge to arrive, but it hasn't come yet. Maybe they don't know my address. I don't know. So, even though the last 10 to 20,000 years of time seems so ancient to us, and we are still very puzzled by the advanced nature, the seemingly past advanced nature of these ancient civilizations that even seem to be more advanced than us, like the Egyptians, etc. And then, of course, the Atlanteans and Lemurians, who were quite advanced in the use of crystal technology. And the anthropologists and archaeologists are still digging up. Our history goes way, way back, much further than, the classic Greeks and the Mesopotamians and the Mayans, etc. And of course, the classic Abrahamic lineage of Adam and so forth. Oh, and that's another story. The Adam and Eve, which I could go into briefly, but you can read about the true Adam and Eve in the Urantia book. I won't go any farther than that. But anyway, so our history goes way back farther than Atlantis and Lemuria, which was around 30,000 plus years ago. And there are even written books in ancient Greek books with maps of Atlantis and Lemuria in them. But Earth history goes back millions of years, which includes galactic history as well. There is no Earth history without galactic history, because this Earth was not created by a single white-bearded man-god. There are countless historical books as well as channeled books about ETs and our galactic history, especially about Atlantis and Lemuria and subsequent civilizations that formed or were influenced by the Atlanteans and Lemurians when these advanced civilizations fell, which is where the flood story came from. When the firmament, which was a layer of basically water that protected the earth, it's in the Bible, the firmament, was destroyed, which created the flood. Anyway, after the flood, after the sinking of Atlantis and Lemuria, these people moved on to join or form other civilizations, including Egypt and Rama, which is now known as India, South America, of course, and the Mayans. And as I said, those who wanted to stay pure, so to speak, who wanted to continue building a highly evolved civilization, to continue with what was created in Lemuria, especially, but also Atlantis, created the subterranean cities of the Agartha network and have lived there in those subterranean cities for over 30,000 years now. And the capital of the Agartha network is at the base of underneath Mount Shasta. It is called Telos, and you can do searching all about that and read and watch videos, I'm sure, all about the Agartha network and life there. I wish I knew some websites off the top of my head, but they are not on the tip of my tongue. And they are, as you can imagine, extremely advanced and very tall. And they have their own spaceships that are part of the Galactic Federation. So that's why you see a lot of ships coming out of, a lot of ET ships, spaceships coming out of the ocean. Those are often Agarthan ships. And then there are, of course, ET bases under the ocean. And apparently there are other subterranean civilizations that were already underground, even before Atlantis, Lemuria, from previous very ancient civilizations, older than Lemuria and Atlantis, but I don't know much about them at this point. I'm sure there's some stuff on the internet about them. As I said, the capital of the Agartha network is called Telos, which is under Mount Shasta in Northern California. There's cities, subterranean cities all over the planet. One at Uluru, which is a classic place, power spot in Australia. And Mofo used to say, who again is a channeled entity, channeled by Penny Torres, used to say that if you visited Mount Shasta and were high enough in vibration, a doorway would open for you and you could go visit Telos. So go visit Mount Shasta and maybe you'll get a tour. There was even a time where I called myself Telos because I really deeply resonated with Telos and the Agartha network, and I was very much connecting with the Agarthans at that time, and potentially my source self also experiences life in an Agarthan body, and of course I've always fantasized of visiting the subterranean cities, and maybe one day I will. I'll go up to Mount Shasta or Uluru and have a tour. And there are beings on Earth who channel information from Adama and other beings in the Agartha network about life in the subterranean cities. And similarly to the prediction or plan for mass landings of spaceships from the Galactic Federation that has been planned for a long time. One day, perhaps, the Agarthans will make their presence widely known to humanity. We shall see. But in regards to either one of those, the concept, the quote-unquote conspiracy theory, so to speak, and reports from the Galactic Federation that one day mass landings will happen and we'll get visitations from the subterranean cities. Basically, none of that's going to happen until humanity is well and truly ready. It must be the next natural step in humanity's evolution, not some sort of wake-up call or, some sort of plan to save our sorry asses, which is why it keeps getting put off, But the wake-up call has been happening for, 10,000 plus years, especially the last 100 years, which has obviously been very accelerated as the interest in our evolution has increased. With, of course, UFOs blatantly showing themselves to entire cities are part of the wake-up call. The crop formations that have been happening for, I don't know how many years, 20 years now, are part of the wake-up call. They don't just happen in England, that's the primary place, but all over the world. And of course, all the channeled material that has been happening since the 1930s is part of that wake-up call. And more currently, the U.S. government and their involvement, at least footage of UFOs, plus airline pilots, military pilots seeing UFOs, now officially called UAPs, is part of the wake-up call for humanity to realize that we are not alone, and we are obviously important somehow, or at least interesting, as our evolution picks up at quantum speeds, and of course technology advances at light speeds. Basically, we are like the equivalent of a technologically advanced civilization on Star Trek that has advanced sufficiently to be approached by the United Federation of Planets, which is a representation of the Galactic Federation of Light, which actually exists. And our governments have already been approached by representatives of the Galactic Federation, but only select individuals and secret government agencies, and I'm sure the president, are part of that awareness. Luckily, European governments are a lot more open in releasing information about military sightings of UAPs, aka UFOs, and the U.S. government is finally releasing declassified footage of many military personnel, airline pilots, Air Force pilots are coming forth and revealing their experiences with UFOs as well as ETs. So the truth is truly out there and gradually being released to not panic the peasants. And further in regards to our proverbial wake-up call, of course, the countless ETs and UFO documentaries that have been produced in the last 50 years, and the countless fictional movies and TV series about space and ETs are gradually waking up humanity to realize that we are, in fact, a galactic species. So suffice it to say that there is a lot more going on down here, Horatio, than is dreamt of in your philosophy. Nothing is as simple as how the ignorant religions of the day portray life, creation, and spirituality to be, that we are the only species in the entire universe created and controlled by a white-bearded, cranky, insecure overlord of a god, and the planet is only 5,000 years old. And the big wake-up call is the shattering of those ludicrous, childish beliefs. The big wake-up call is not that there are ETs and spaceships, but that most people's spiritual beliefs are just childish nonsense. Humans have developed two contrary views of itself. One is an overinflated view of the sole species in the entire universe created by the Emperor God, and at the same time, an underinflated view of itself as being unworthy and sinful and faulty and helpless and powerless, etc. Especially in relationship to this all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient God. But spirituality and creation and the notion of God, or source as I like to call it, is infinitely more complex and vast and multidimensional in nature than religions simplistically portray it to be. For most people, because it is what society has taught them, and going along with society is the path of least resistance, the path of least pain, and people want to belong and feel secure. Well, the typical insecure, judgmental overlord of a God who is supposedly in charge of everyone's fate is as far as most people want to go spiritually. They just want to keep their heads down and not get hassled by the spiritual police, as it were. They want to keep things simple so that they don't have to actually take responsibility for their own power and the creation of their own realities. It's easier to just blame God or blame the governments or blame religions or any number of other people and situations for their lack of ability to create what they want. And stepping into one's power is scary for most people, especially because as soon as you try to think for yourself and do anything outside of the status quo, you are quickly dragged back down and ridiculed by the other peasants. So for most people, the pain of leaving the status quo and suffering the rejection and disapproval of their friends and family by leaving the tribe and questioning their beliefs, the pain of that is far greater than the possibility of the pleasure of empowerment that they would receive, especially when this empowerment seems far off and meant only for the gods, as it were, and seems lonely and paranormal and far out and crazy. Or simply put, spiritual evolution and self-empowerment is scary for most people. And so, of course, they just don't go there. They just stick to what they've been taught. And if you have a firm belief in a judgmental God, well, then your blasphemous desires will land you in eternal fiery jail, as it were. But for a lot of people, for the creatives, the revolutionaries, the philosophers, the artists, the New Agers, etc., that judgmental, punishment-oriented, controlling sort of God is just childish and ignorant and uneducated and unevolved and just feels wrong, especially when you realize that God, source, is unconditionally loving in nature and not conditional and judgmental in nature. And in regards to our galactic and dimensional, quote-unquote, ET nature and what is so obvious, such as literal tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of eyewitnesses that who have not just seen unexplained lights in the sky, but have seen actual ships and seen actual ETs, some who have witnessed physical ETs in the flesh and been on spaceships, not just abductions, but taken up nicely. And of course, ancient civilizations and obvious ET involvement. And now, as the governments are finally coming clean with declassified videos and actual spaceships traveling tens of thousands of miles per hour by Air Force pilots witnessing, seeing it on radar, and retired airline pilots that are coming clean, who are finally coming forth and admitting that they've seen UFOs, or UAPs, aka unidentified anomalous phenomena, because they're no longer worried about losing their jobs and reporting UFOs. Well, it's just obvious what's really going on down here, as well as the Disclosure Project, where many Air Force, military, CIA, and secret government personnel have come forth to reveal the truth that not only are the ETs among us, but the U.S. government has direct involvement with them and have recovered crashed spacecraft as well as live and dead ET bodies, etc., etc. But aside from government cover-ups and conspiracies, I would prefer to go higher in vibration so that people understand what's really going on down here, which is the evolution of the human species and the support that we have to accomplish this from the Galactic Federation of Light. And I want people to understand that almost all of the ET species, including the characters that we used to consider the bad guys, such as the Greys, are now part of the Galactic Federation. So even though the governments of this planet are still squabbling like little spoiled brats and fighting over money and resources and power like hyenas fighting over a carcass, and fighting over religion and who's right and who's wrong, regardless of our Cardassian squabbles. Above us in the heavens, so to speak, everybody else is finally getting along and working together. Even the old recalcitrant, emotionless grays from Zeta Reticuli and other formerly resistant star nations that are of reptilian origin, etc., who were previously addicted to control, have joined or are joining the Galactic Federation of Light, and are all working together for the good of all ET kind and humankind as well. And even though I have been hearing the supposed plan of mass landings since the 1980s, and luckily I didn't hold my breath, there are renewed reports of that plan still, and of course, eventually it's going to happen. And now I understand why it hasn't happened yet, because humanity just wasn't ready yet vibrationally. Because there's only one law in the universe, and that is the law of attraction. The ETs aren't going to assert their will upon us to sort of force wake us up. We got to be ready and attract it, so to speak. And there's no rush anyway. This planet is not dying, contrary to what a lot of people believe. There's no real urgency, even if you follow the climate change stuff. And the whole mass landing thing will only happen when it is humanity's next step and we attract it as part of our next evolution. But anyway, so most people still erroneously believe that we are helpless and powerless victims who need saving from the evil cabals and selfish government forces, and that it's the ET's job to save our sorry asses, and to some degree they are helping us, but ultimately it's not their job to save us. We must save ourselves. And rather than ET's landing and saying, okay, you ignorant, stupid humans, we're taking over so you don't continue destroying yourselves and being total dickheads and possibly destroying this planet. Instead, it's more like we need to ask for help from them, from our star brothers and star sisters. And not because we actually need saving, not because we're all doomed and destroying the planet, but because we desire spiritually to expand and become a part of something much grander than this piddly, childish perception that we are stuck on a planet being controlled by a cranky, white-bearded, insecure God. And there is no real need for a big, giant planetary wake-up call, because everyone wakes up at their own pace. Everybody is being guided by their own source. And regardless if the ETs ever land in mass or not, the truth is truly out there and obvious, and even becoming normal, which is the real wake-up call. And the truth was always available because the truth has been and is within. You don't need physical evidence to know if something is real or not. You don't need to see UFOs to know they are real or not. You don't need to see and touch ETs to know if they're real or not. Just tune into your spiritual knowing. I've never needed to see UFOs to know that ETs are real. I used to call myself an ET. Still kind of perceive myself as not being from planet Earth, regardless of whether or not I am a walk-in that has come from other star systems. But the truth is, the truth was always within, which is where I have always gone to for guidance. And the truth is now fully out there, dun, 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 as Mulder's X-Files poster always told us. Especially with the internet, anyone can do a search for ETs and UFOs and UAPs and watch the countless videos and read the countless books and watch the countless documentaries to make a educated decision. Or you can just look up, have a brain in your freaking head and just look up at the sky with your naked eye and see anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 stars. And then, of course, you can get yourself a telescope and you can see millions of stars and even billions of stars and trillions of stars in our universe. So to imagine that there are no other inhabited planets surrounding these trillions of stars is just pure lunacy. So previously it was lunacy to believe in UFOs and ETs and other inhabited planets, whereas now we're getting to the tipping point where it's lunacy to believe that they don't exist. Even the most renowned scientists of our day, who 50 years ago would never admit the ludicrous notion to believing in UFOs and ETs for fear of being discredited and being ridiculed and losing their jobs, today's scientists are finally admitting the obvious, that they're logically, even if they haven't seen them, even if they have never read a book or watched a UFO documentary, that there logically must be countless other extraterrestrial civilizations and planets and star nations and species out there. And to give you just a few statistics, Project Blue Book, which was a U.S. government study, which ran from 1947 to 1969, which they never ever really took seriously, but still investigated over 12,000 UFO sightings, of which statistically 701 of those still remain unidentified. So even if they, all the other ones said they were weather balloons, 701 of those still were completely unexplainable. And the National UFO Reporting Center has investigated over 123,000 sightings from 1930 to 2022. And there are many other civilian UFO reporting groups with tens of thousands of reports, pictures, and videos out there. So again, it's kind of no-brainer. It's like, duh, hello. Of course there are not only ETs watching us, but they're visiting us, and not only occasionally, but every single day. And duh, hello, obvious, there are spaceships up there right now, all the time, and everywhere. So why are the ETs so interested in us stupid humans? If they're so evolved, why are they interested in us unevolved poor sods? Well, it's because spiritually Earth is on the leading edge of creation. We're on the outer edge, so to speak, of the galaxy, or even figuratively and even physically, but we're still playing the games of light and dark and good and evil, and playing the games of prosperity and scarcity, etc. Games that are essentially unnecessary and not mandatory, but games that are still very valuable from a spiritual evolutionary perspective. And because contrast of unwanted things inspires great desire for wanted things. And those desires for improvement are literally what drives evolution, expansion, and growth. So as the title of Sheldon Neidl's and Virginia Essene's book reveals to us, you are becoming a galactic human. First, you personally are becoming a galactic human as you wake up and evolve spiritually and expand your consciousness to understand that you are a spirit having a human experience. and not a human having a spiritual experience. And you become even more of a galactic human when you realize that you are not a human, so to speak. You just happen to be inhabiting a human body. And you just as easily could be inhabiting a Pleiadian body, or Arcturian body, or Sirian body, or even a gray body. And you become even more of a galactic human when you realize that all of those ETs jetting around in their spacecrafts, watching us and even interacting with us physically and spiritually, are your brothers and sisters of the light. And then you naturally want to go visit them on their ships and work with them and play with them. And maybe you even have the openness and the awareness to understand that your own source, your own spirit, your own soul, whatever you want to call it, is at the same time as it is experiencing life through your body. Who you truly are as source is experiencing life through other bodies, ET bodies, and so forth. So how about them frickin' apples, eh? And we, as an entire species of humans, are becoming galactic humans as we wake up collectively. And we are obviously close to the tipping point where more people are open to the truth of our galactic nature, ETs, and expanded spiritual awareness beyond the typical religious norm. And when we really hit that tipping point, humanity is really going to expand at quantum speeds, beyond its petty, selfish, insecure, lack-oriented squabbles. The truth, as it were, will be obvious and undeniable. And to believe in old, archaic ways will be like believing the earth is flat. The essence of all of this far-out stuff, so to speak, NETs and UFOs, etc., comes back to spirituality and the fact that we are a whole lot more than what humans typically believe themselves to be. And the awareness of ETs and other extremely advanced civilizations is not to feel, it's not so you'll feel insignificant or less powerful in comparison to them, but to understand that we are just as powerful spiritually as they are. And I'm not talking about technology necessarily. I'm talking about spiritual power. Because regardless of whether you're in a human body or a Pleiadian body or a Sirian body or a dog body, we each have the equal power to create anything that we desire and anything that we focus our positive attention on. The only difference between you and another person or another ET is your believability factor. In other words, how much can you believe that you can actually create and attract your desire? Us humans have not been taught typically to believe that we create our own realities. We were taught to believe that a God creates our reality for us, or evil forces can assert their evil will upon us and control our realities, or some devil can tempt us to be evil, etc. Whereas more advanced ET races are taught from an early age that they create their own realities. So doing so consciously and deliberately is basically normal and easy for them. They are just more practiced at it. Just like I'm more practiced at creating my reality than most people on planet Earth. Whereas the majority of humanity are creating their own realities, because everyone creates their own realities. They just don't necessarily know that they actually do and can. They're creating their own realities positively or negatively, depending on how they are focused in positive or negative ways. But they're doing it unconsciously, typically, because they are ignorant of their infinite and unlimited power, and they're ignorant of the fact that they create their own realities based on where they focus their attention, based on their thinking. But the more you believe in your unlimited power, the more you just naturally attract things, situations, and people that are more unlimited in nature, such as ETs and channeled spiritual teachings, which is always of the highest vibration, and very advanced spiritual teachers, such as myself, who are operating at an extremely advanced vibration. And then, when you're vibrating at a similar vibration as that, well, you just might see UFOs or run into ETs while you're in nature. Or you might see fairies or nature spirits. Or an ET might knock on your door and show up for dinner. Or the universe shows you how open and advanced and aware you are and how high you are vibrating by lining up amazing, natural, fun, joyful, loving synchronicities, such as beautiful animal encounters or mind-blowing sex or inspired creative ideas or just plain ecstatic fun with friends because you're focused in purely positive directions. And maybe you might even consider yourself to be an extraterrestrial because you feel like you just don't quite belong down here on planet Earth. Or you just don't feel like a human or only like a human. I mean, why do you think so many people are questioning their sexuality and their gender? It's not because there's anything wrong with either of those things. It's because they don't want to be constrained inside of a box. They want to be unlimited in nature. They don't want to be limited by a certain identity or expectation. But the thing that most people are missing out on is the fact that whatever body you've got, you chose it. Everyone chose the exact body they are in. And they chose the specific gender or sexual orientation or the situation they're in with the classic societal and religious expectations and demands and etc. And the other thing that most people are missing out on and not understanding is that none of those limitations, none of those expectations and demands, etc., by humanity actually limit anyone or can limit anyone in any way. Because nothing and no one can impose their will or expectations or demands or rules, etc., upon anyone. Only you have the personal power to limit yourself and allow yourself to be limited by other people's perceptions and beliefs about you. Only you have the power to judge yourself, regardless of whether other people are judging you or not. It doesn't matter to me if other people judge me or disapprove of me or don't understand me at all, because I'm 100% confident in my knowing of what I know and so forth. I can't be insulted. I'm uninsultable. I'm uninsecurable, if that word exists. Because what other people think about you or believe you should be or believe you should act like or believe that you should believe has absolutely nothing to do with you. Those are their insecurities, not necessarily yours. And you don't have to buy other people's insecurities. You don't have to buy other people's demands. You don't have to buy other people's approval or disapproval. So, with that in mind, what are you? Who are you really? Who and what are you truly? Are you a human? Are you a soul? Are you a spirit? Are you an ET inhabiting a human body? Are you a spirit experiencing life through a human body? Well, all of these things are true depending on your perspective and your perception. It's up to you to decide how you're going to see and feel about yourself. When I first woke up spiritually, so to speak, I called myself an ET. I associated with other people who felt the same way, who felt like they were not, at least spiritually, from planet Earth, and were just visiting, so to speak, and who felt that they were very advanced beings, perhaps on a very powerful mission. A mission to wake up personally from a self-imposed amnesia, but then to help other brothers and sisters wake up. The first organization, or one of the first organizations that I was a part of, was called Extraterrestrial Earth Mission in Service to Planet Earth's Awakening. We're a group of walk-ins, beings who their spirits walked into adult human bodies and then channeled spiritual teachings about the universe and ETs, and especially how to create what you want, law of attraction. So, as we were waking up, we realized that it was our missions to, one, help each other wake up. To wake up personally from our own self-imposed amnesia, but then help our other brothers and sisters, especially our walk-in brothers and sisters who were part of our space cruise, as it were, to wake up. First, to wake up our other crewmates that had also forgotten their unlimited power, had forgotten their galactic ET origins, as it were, and then to help wake up the rest of humanity, or whoever was ready to wake up. Not to wake up the entire of humanity, but just to wake up whoever's ready. To wake up whoever was ready to wake up from their cosmic slumber, from their self-imposed amnesia. So like I said, one of the main spiritual organizations that I was involved with was called Extraterrestrial Earth Mission, ETs in Service to Planet Earth's Awakening. And they, and a lot of people who were attracted to them, were what we called walk-ins. In other words, we all walked in spiritually into our bodies as souls, whatever you want to call it, as adults, with high levels of awareness already. And the original inhabitants of our bodies who crawled in, as we used to call it, who crawled in as babies, well, they basically just walked out or left their bodies. For some people, this walk-in experience was a conscious experience, especially the channels and leaders of this organization. For others, like myself, this exchange was unconscious. I was not aware of it until later. Of course, I was, but certainly agreed upon on soul levels. I was attracted to walk-ins, so naturally, eventually, I just went, "Oh yeah, duh, I'm a walk-in too." Especially when I got my ET name, as it were. So, Kevin crawled in as a baby and lived for 20 years or so in this body. Then the exchange happened. Kevin walked out, and I, ZaKaiRan, walked in. And of course, this exchange was all arranged on soul levels. There's no such thing as imposing anything like that. But But I only became aware of this exchange through being attracted to ET Earth Mission and the beings that these walk-ins channeled from higher dimensions, as well as Mafu, who was channeled by my girlfriend's cousin, Penny Torres, as well as other channeled teachings, such as with my buddy Sijao, Kuala Sriyama, and various other channeled teachers, Ramtha, etc., that I engaged with over the decades, especially those ones that mentioned, who talked about walk-ins. So regardless of how you personally identify yourself, regardless of your level of awareness, to put it simply, everyone is a source, spirit, or soul inhabiting a human body, who came into those bodies when their bodies were babies, as crawl-ins, or for some, later as adults, as walk-ins. And typically those walk-ins are very evolved spiritual beings who have come to do some serious spiritual work, especially waking up the other humans and ETs and other spiritual beings on planet Earth from their amnesia slumber. And even if you identify as an ET or a specific species of ETs, such as somebody from the Pleiades or Sirius or Arcturus, etc., physical bodies come and go. But you, as a source spirit, are eternal. No matter what body you are in and how you got into it. And human or ET body or genderless body or race or color, etc., is all decided ahead of time by you as source for your specific intentions and experiences that you would like to experience in that body spiritually, but also just for fun. That is all available to you through that body and its specific social inclinations, genetic inclinations, and of course, depending on your upbringing, the country, the culture, the religious orientation that you're born into. So, humanity is becoming more than just galactic humans, but becoming its true nature of love, joy, well-being, and abundance. Humanity is becoming the unlimited, immortal, universal, galactic, multidimensional, source, love beings that we truly are. And if you want to call yourself an ET like I used to, because it helps you expand your awareness of your unlimited nature, well then go for it. I have since expanded in awareness higher than that and refer to myself as Source. And no longer refer to myself as any specific human or ET body, but at the same time I'm quite comfortable calling myself a human, especially a galactic human, because I have no resistance to my human nature and do not believe that my humanity limits me in any way, because nothing can limit me in any way except for my own thoughts. And I'm very comfortable being in my human spacesuit, as it were. And I'm proud to be a human, or rather I'm proud to be an unlimited source being who happens to be currently enjoying the adventure of life in a human body. In a American / Australian / male, etc. body, with my various inclinations, sexual or otherwise, that I chose to be in for the joy and fun of it, to experience those specific things that I have and am experiencing in this specific body, where I am, where, etc. And I'm here on earth in this body, first and foremost, for the joyful adventure of creation. And then, second of all, I'm here for the joy of relating to creation, which includes nature and animals and humans and ETs and angels and fairies and elves and unicorns and dragons and Sasquatches and all of my brothers and sisters in the countless bodies and species across the universes for fun and for our journey of awakening and growth and expansion and creation. And then thirdly, I'm here to delight in my awesome, unlimited, infinite power and subsequently influence my fellow cosmic humans to remember their infinite, unlimited, magnificent, joyful, loving nature. And then fourthly, I'm here to enjoy the contrast of unwanted things that inspire my desires for wanted things. And then enjoy the fun of creating those desires into physical reality. Just for the fun of it, because I can. And it is extremely fun knowing that I am not alone. But in fact, I am here with all of my cosmic, galactic bro stars and sisters, and I am 100% unconditionally supported by all of creation to be the awesome master that I truly am, but also to play with all of my ET and human buddies and fur buddies and winged buddies and nature buddies and tree buddies and create fun things with all of my ET, human, and multidimensional buddies for the sheer delight and fun of it. So, who wants to play? Who wants to play with me? Who wants to co-create with me? Who wants to co-create heaven on earth with me? If that's you, then contact me now and let's play. Let's co-create heaven on earth together. Let's play with our ET brothers and sisters. Let's play with our fairy brothers and sisters. Let's play with our dolphin brothers and sisters and our whale brothers and sisters and our bear brothers and sisters and our bug brothers and sisters. Let's be the awesome, unlimited, immortal, infinite, all-powerful, magnificent masters of love, joy, well-being, abundance, and fun that we all truly are. Together. Let's play. And even though it certainly would be fun going for adventures to other planets and star systems and playing with the Galactic Federation starships and visiting the subterranean city people and seeing what life is like down there, we can have just as much fun down here on planet Earth, just creating fun stuff together and doing fun, adventurous things together, communing with creation and creating our desires into physical reality for the fun of it. So I hope you enjoyed this vodcast or this book, and it has helped you remember that you are, in fact, a galactic human. You are a multidimensional source being inhabiting a human body. You are a spirit having a human experience. You are not a human having a spiritual experience. If you did enjoy this, and I know you did because it was outrageously amazing, bless your friends with these amazing teachings. Wake up your friends with this wake-up call vodcast book. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, my podcast channel, The Master Keys of Creation. Come visit me at ZaKaiRan.com for tons more self-empowering quantumly supportive goodies to empower you to easily create the happiness, health, wealth, abundance, and freedom that you desire. My name is ZaKaiRan, not Khan, we, she, Han, and I help success and joy-minded and fun-minded people, and ET-minded people, and galactic-minded people, and multidimensional-minded people create the happy, abundant, fun lifestyle that we all love and all came to this planet Earth to experience. Thanks again for watching this video or listening to this podcast or listening to this audio book, and I wish you immense joy and abundance on your magnificent journey of divine creation. And of course, remember to make life a holiday.